Welcome back today for a conversation of, pretty boring video today. Don't expect a lot of engagement and craziness because we're not talking about dramatic, Magic 30 events. We're not talking about dramatic Lord of the Rings going to zero because the ring is found. We're not going to talk about dramatic Commander Masters or the new Flesh and Blood release or anything. I just want to have a conversation about more of a macroeconomic discussion about the economy, the stock market, interest rates. The state of mind of everybody right now in this post-Lord of the Rings situation. Am I too close? I feel like I'm like right in guys. I'll scoot back a little. I feel like I'm like right in you guys' like bedroom or something. So first, interest rates are high. And I've been doing a lot of thinking. And one of the things that really catches my attention that I think I really misjudged, I didn't plan for and I didn't calculate enough, was the impact of the low interest rates for such a long period of time, and how that led to, well, I don't want to say the bubble of everything, because we all know everything's a bubble, but that doesn't really, the bubble can last longer than we're alive. It's more, I didn't realize that a lot of the money going into vintage Magic the Gathering, and even sealed product, new and old, I hate to use the word blame, but I blame a lot of everything that we experienced the last 5 to 8 years since I've been on YouTube on interest rates. And I hate using the term blame, because if you ask anyone who's a normal Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or Weiss or Flesh and Blood or Yu-Gi-Ohs and MetaZoos, and no matter what you're into, that's really irrelevant in this video. We're not going to go into any of that stuff. Most people attribute who are online and social media in the last 8 years, if you ask them about investing in sealed product or vintage cards or graded cards investing, historically, most people are probably going to mention, oh, that's that Rudy Alpha Investments YouTube channel. Ever since he started, he manipulated and controlled, and he's responsible for everything being expensive and everything. And I believe there is truth to that. I don't think that is a invalid perspective. Because anytime enough people watch anyone's opinion on things, it is going to spill through and seep through the system of that kind of mindset will spread. But a lot of people believe that, I would say maybe 50 to 80% of the reason things are expensive or sealed product hoarding began was because of me. And I never thought it was that high. I always thought maybe 10, 20, maybe 30% at the most. And I know we're all going to have our opinions on that. But I think what I really misjudged, and it's becoming more and more clear to me, is the situation of interest rates in the United States. I really didn't spend enough time. Like, I look back at my older videos from 2016 to 2020, and we rarely ever had interest rate conversations on this channel. We all knew rates were always low, near zero, at zero. Rates were 1-2%. I mean, rates were never where they were now. Like, the current interest rate environment, a lot of people think it's within 12, 24 months, the government's and the Fed is going to tank interest rates again, and we're all going to go back to the previous era. But as of right now, all we can talk about is the current situation. I'm not going to speculate on when the Federal Reserve is going to lower rates and how many basis points. Are they going to do a quarter? Are they going to do 50 basis points? How quick are they going to move the curve? I'm not going to go into all that dumb shit. It's just not worth it. The world and the eras and the Fed, the interest, everything's just going to do its thing. There's no point in stressing out about things we can't control. That is a talking point that we discuss a lot on this channel. But I really didn't understand how big of a deal the interest rates played in the inflationary price increases of CCGs. Specifically with sealed product of Magic, new and vintage, single cards and graded cards, new and vintage. And what I'm getting at, folks, is that when I talk to a lot of people, and you guys see these collection videos on my channel, and when I have these conversations, the amount of deals and transactions. Oh, by the way, to give you an idea, we're approaching almost 1,000 collections that I have purchased in the 7 to 8 years I've been on YouTube. which I guess if you divide that up by 7, 8 years, like 80, maybe 100 collections a year. Well, the first year or two, this channel was small. So yeah, maybe 100 collections a year, maybe 150 recently. That's 5, 10 collections. So what is that? 100 collections. So it'd be about 10, 15 collections a month. So even, yeah, that's about right. I guess that'd be right. Because again, some collections are small, just a couple cards, maybe a couple dual lands or a couple revised, and then other ones are complete set. Yeah, that's about right. I'd say that's about right. And something I've learned is, it's not the meme of the double Ds, but the triple Ds. Divorce, death, and debt. The triple Ds. The triple Ds, not D's nuts. I already know some of you are going to say, D's nuts, Rudy. I know some of you are going to do that because we have fun on this channel. We try to have fun, because this serious financial stuff gets really dry really quick and it gets crappy. When people get divorced or have a financial life event, they tend to raise capital or liquidate assets. When people, they die, death, the next generation or other people around that individual or have rights or power of attorney or next of kin or whatever fancy terms you want to use, many times they don't care about this stuff. They just say, get rid of it, give me money. That happens a lot. The third thing is debt. And that's the one we're going to focus on this video. And I didn't realize how much the debt, the inflationary environment, and the interest rates really are levying and moving the needle in these CCGs. Because, the facts right now are all the money went into Lord of the Rings for Magic recently, okay? It funneled all the money in the Magic world into one area. And my theory is as we move past that, money's still going to chase that Lord of the Rings boxes, even though One Ring's gone. Look at the collector boxes online. To everyone's surprise, they're pretty stable at like $450 with tax and shipping. They're pretty stable, man. And yeah. But I believe moving forward, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see a lot of really shocking things for Commander Masters. And a lot of people are going to be like, wow, that's better than I thought. That's my theory, at least. And I think that's what's going to happen. I still believe the collector box and the Commander deck set for Commander Masters is going to be where most of the money gets funneled into. I think draft and set, people are very skeptical due to the high price. And of course, the rumor that draft and set are going to have a higher print run. So again, everybody, be careful on that. When people tell me the debt and the why they're selling collections and things like that, it tends to be, most answers are two things. Either A, they're raising capital for some life event, or debt, or paying bills, or interest, or something like that. And the other answer is simply the same thing over and over. Rudy, I'm sick of Hasbro. I'm sick of Magic. This was not what I bought into. This was not the Magic the Gathering I believe in. This is an era of selling lottery tickets by Hasbro and Wizards. This was an era of serialization and flashy things. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I'll say it. And Rudy was right with the serialized cards. Well, if you guys remember or not, there are videos on this channel from many years ago where I actually talked to you all about the next wave of Magic's future from the flashy era was going to be serialization of Magic cards. And again, typical internet attack before it saying Rudy's just trying to, pump and dump your ex and all that. And this was after the 2017 era where I talked about core sets coming back. And then core sets came back. And then for core 2019, 2021, then they discontinued again. And I assure you all, core sets will return again. Just Rudy making that up on the spot. No evidence, no inside information. But they're going to come back. The biggest reason people are liquidating and selling is that, high interest rate opportunities and lack of credibility in Magic and Hasbro and Wizards moving forward. And you can't blame anybody. I can't reply and say, well, I think that's a bad idea. Because the risk level right now is nowhere near the risk level of conversations and old cards and buyouts. And, we remain in an environment where, I have problems. All kind of mental problems, hair problems. I look ridiculous. I'm obsessed with things. I take things too far. That's just my mindset. I've been that way my whole life. That's why I try to avoid all alcohol, all smoking and vaping. I don't gamble. I love going to casinos and friends and doing things and the Vegas stuff and cruise ships, but I don't gamble. I don't do these things because I understand how I'm wired and I take things too far. I take things too far. And, I understand that. So at least I'm, lucky, privileged, blessed, fortunate enough to understand my strengths and weaknesses in that. And I still enjoy buying sealed products and believing in things and long term and all that stuff. And, but I also understand the reality of sealed product and old Magic cards right now. And the reality is they are not going to appreciate anytime soon. There is no quick, easy opportunity to make money in this stuff, folks. Now, it does not mean that we will not shift into another era in the next few years, which I do believe is going to happen. And we've talked about that. But I believe the high interest rate thing, and I have a whiteboard video coming on real estate. The high interest rate scenario we're in, if rates stay relatively where they are now, maybe a little higher, a little lower, if they stay relatively where they are now, in the United States, let's just call it 5% interest rates. I think it's like, is it 5.25% now or 5.5%? When brokerage firms, multiple of them, and again, picking on Robinhood, I do use Robinhood all the time. When the fact that their cash pays 4.65%, FDIC insured, I think their FDIC insured is what, $2 million? Because they use like 8 different banks or something for $250,000 each or something that they sweep your money into. When I can move hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars, if you can move that much capital and get almost 5% with zero risk, when your risk-free rate is hovering around 5%, and you have investment-grade corporate bonds that are probably 6-7%, like, that is a really interesting scenario that makes Rudy's rental properties not look that much attractive and fun anymore and dealing with them. Why am I dealing with that? Why on earth should I buy into Throne of Eldraine? Well, Rudy, the new Wilds of Eldraine is coming. The sequel to Throne of Eldraine. Yeah, I mean, that is coming. But at the same time, the data and the numbers have shifted permanently, folks. And not only are interest rates and market conditions and macro conditions unfavorable to CCGs, specifically Magic. Not really going to talk about the Pokemon Weiss Flesh and Blood minute. We're just Magic right now. The market's very unfavorable. The Magic 30 thing will go down in history as a turning point in the sand. 2022, with the Baldur's Gate, the Magic 30, the Hasbro collapse in their stock price, the Fireside Chats, Chris Cox, Cynthia, Philip Morris Williams, Mark Bottomwater, all these things that happen will go down in history. And I mention them and I bring them up in these videos, not just because it's a meme, because I want those of you watching many years from now, when I'm old, maybe it's 50 years from now you're watching, I'm not even alive in 50 years. So I'm like 90 years old or something and I'm dead or something. There's going to be a time in the future where these details will not be remembered. They will not be discussed. It is almost as if it never happened. It's very important to remember and discuss these things that happened, whether they were positive or negative. It is important that these events are understood in both perspectives of good and bad. And 2022 will go down in history as a major thing last year. The nasty clobbering bear market of Baldur's Gate, Magic 30, and just what it did to the world of Magic in the consumer confidence and moving forward into these flashy era of high prices, chasing $1 million lottery rings and all it is a different world, folks. And a lot of people don't like it and they're out. I get that all the time. When I'm buying vintage collections of cards, when I have people just 2 weeks ago, I think it wasn't Call Time. What was it? I think it was maybe Theros or War the Spark. Just a couple weeks ago, I had a store who held like 200-300 boxes of like War of the Spark, Throne, Theros, Ikoria, what I consider beautifully engineered products. Pre-flashy era. I mean, War of the Spark, Guilds of Ravnica Allegiance, Throne of Eldraine had, Draft and Collector. I mean, what I consider, I hate to say this, but Glory Days products. Incredible products. And the storage says, Rudy, I'm out. Why am I going to have this money sitting here when these boxes aren't going up? They're not doing anything. It's been a couple years. the sealed product world of Magic, Hasbro and Wizards has sucked it dry, and permanently, they want that equity, and they have done permanent damage. And I can't say that that is a bad perspective, because I agree with that. I don't agree with that it's never going to, that's it, it's just over, nothing's ever going to happen again. I don't agree with that kind of bearish sentiment. But I do agree that the just waiting a year or two and something doubles or jumps in price, that is over with. I think that is true. Now, you can get into contrarian things where we talk about, well, if everybody feels that way and nobody's keeping sealed product, I mean, Rudy, that's an interesting thing. Again, you can go into a contrarian conversation, but similar to the real estate whiteboard video that, should be out within the next few days here. I think that video will come out either before or after I got my Sorcery Alpha box opening coming up here Friday. So that's going to be coming up with, so we got these lined up. But if you buy a box, like if you buy Commander Masters at $400 a box, what is it right now? Like $375 plus tax, what, $410? $400 on TCG Player. Even if the box appreciates in value by 5 to 10% a year, something just normal. Let's pretend for a second that happens. We have no idea if it's going to happen. But let's pretend in Timmy's Emporium, in Timmy's world, it happens. So you wait 3 years. The $400 box goes up 5%, maybe 8%, then maybe 10%. So maybe a total of, 25% in 3 years. So that $400 box is, 3 years later, let's say it's, $550. Okay, you pay shipping and fees, you sell it, and you walk away with $500. So you still made 20% in 3 years. I mean, that's not terrible. It's really not bad. It's normal. And if you enjoy doing it, it's a fun experience to do in your life. But if I can turn around and take that same $400 and you can buy, even if you just lock it in at a 5, 6, 7% bond or CD or whatever you're doing. I think CDs are still, I don't think you can get CDs at 6 or 7. I think CDs are still 4 or 5 range. There's some brokerage firms that have brokered CDs and things like that. Some smaller banks or credit unions that maybe have 5.5, but let's just call it 5. In 3 years, 15% on a risk-free thing at 5%. So what, 15% in 3 years versus 20% in doing work and selling and holding the assets and doing. There's really not much difference to be excited about anymore. And I don't think there's any opportunity for you to buy a Commander Master set box for $400 and you can't pitch it to me saying it's going to go to $1,000 a box. It's just not possible. I don't believe any new product can come out in 2, 3, 4, 500,000%, 10x your money. The memes of 2021, it doesn't exist. In high interest rates, and people continuously unloading positions, which is dumping supply on a market, you're continuing to splash cold water to keep everything low. Now, eventually, as time goes on, these items and these boxes are going to become older and older and older. And the best way for me to try to visualize that with you all in this video is visualize this area I'm sitting in right now, this room, this closet, this whatever we're in. Visualize the area I'm sitting in. In all these cases, instead of being 2019, 2020, 2021 product, visualize everything I'm sitting around being Shadows of Innistrad, Eldritch Boon, Battle for Zen, Oath of the Gatewatch, Amon Kitty Cat, Ixalan's, and Hour of Devs, and Rivals of Ix. Visualize that product. Because that product is to the point now that it's all, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old now. It is aged and kind of matured. And yes, that product feels different now. When we look at, hold on. Ah, jeez, just lost money. When we look at, Fate Reforged. I don't know if that was worth just grabbing a bot. When we look at something, what year was this? This was 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, this is 8 years old. Okay? We're approaching 10 years. Double digits, double Ds. I mean, an 8-year-old box. Okay? Now, that box is probably $200. Now, again, I remember selling that box for $79.99. So the average store maybe sold it instead of selling it for... I sold it for $80 to patrons. I'd say people today, or at the time, even if you weren't a Rudy patron because I was an evil scumbag, I still am, but I just have less hair. I'd say even if you bought on the open market for $100, in 8 years, that $100 box, you didn't pay Rudy, you paid normal $100 price. That $100 box is $200 in 8 years. Shipping and fees, what? You net 180, 170. So you make a 70% return in 8 years. Well, I mean, it's a small scale. It may not be scalable to an average person, or it may be scary, but percentage-wise, on a flat percentage scale, on just an annual percentage rate, not a yield, just the APR, not APY, different, those are different things, you can Google it. On the actual annual percentage rate of increase, that's still above 5% a year. That's still between 5 and 10% a year. And that's still good. And now people look back at these older sets and that they're pretty old. I mean, that they're journeying the next, another era. They're pretty old. I don't know what the hell this is. A gate crash something. I don't even know. Something that came in a collection that I didn't want, that paid a couple dollars for it because it was a bulk deal. But, it's difficult in the moment to visualize today of what some of these sets are going to be. Because right now, seriously, right now, folks, like when I look at everything from Crimson Vow to Midnight Hunt, Streets of Copacabana's Barry Manilow, Kamigawa, great product. I mean, Kamigawa's phenomenal. Streets of Barry Manilow, I love that set. Triomes and the Mafia theme. Wizards is never going to do Mafia theme again. What a weird product. And the Crimson Vow, the Midnight Hunt, Unfinity. I mean, and then we even go further forward into 2022 last year. Dominar United, collector boxes with Lost Legends, Liliana in standard, nobody cares. If you would have told me in 2009 when original Zendikar had Lost Legends, original old ABU cards inserted, and it was such a big deal, and if you were to tell me 15 years later they would do it again with Legends, fresh pack Legend cards, I would have told you that'd be the most ingenious idea in history, best-selling thing ever. And to see Dominar United collector boxes sell at losses from distribution. Even the couple cases I have left, the 100, 200 boxes, Dominar United collector boxes. My cost was like $180 a box. Or wait, was that before and after the price increase? $190? I don't remember. And they're on TCG Player and Amazon for like $150. And so I've lost 20, 30% of my money on that, I don't know, 100 grand? Yeah, I don't know, whatever the dollar amount. I mean, I'm down tens of thousands. And it's crazy to think that a product that I considered really good, and I still think it's a decent product, is that just blot out with the market. Like the set boxes, or the draft boxes. And again, to shill Rudy. Remember, folks, this video is sponsored by myself and my patrons and, the viewers like you. To shill for Rudy, yeah, the patrons are still buying. I will tell you all very clearly, patrons are still buying tremendous amounts of $89 draft boxes from me every month. The demand has not slowed down. For all the negativity and high interest rates, there are still thousands upon thousands of patrons, of which they are buying draft boxes from me for $89 shipped every month to their door. I mean, and again, I have they can choose. I mean, what do you choose? Like nine? What do I have? 9 or 10 choices of draft boxes. And some patrons, they just buy, I don't know, Infinity. They buy crappy Crimson Vow because it's so cheap, and they're like, dude, nobody's sitting on it. Then people are taking the contrarian approach, and of course, it's getting old. That one's pretty much about out of print, but nobody cares. And then Kamigawa, Streets. You got Brothers War, Phyrexia, OB69, March of the Machine. There's so many sets, and I can tell you all, just to be very blunt about it, that the supporters I have and the patrons are still buying these for $89 shipped every day. Every day. Probably just to filming this video after I turn the camera off and I check my phone and emails and everything, there will be at least 1 or 2 more orders from patrons for draft boxes of different combinations of boxes they want. It is a consistent thing. They are still buying. Now, that tells me either they're just opening and having fun with their friends, and because many patrons will just have a patron account, and them and maybe them and their family or another friend, they split the cost of a case and they get cheap boxes and they do whatever they want. That's fine. But many of them do still keep them. Maybe they keep a few boxes or a few cases for long-term sealed. But overall, to swing back to the beginning of this video, nobody believed 5 years ago that the future of Magic would be where we are now. And everybody believed 5 years ago that everybody would be hoarding sealed product and all of it would just go to hell. And what was it? Investors just sell back and forth to each other. That's usually the meme on the internet. That's what usually the MySpace memes are. Just an investor moving back and forth to fake up the data or something. I don't know. And I look at today and it's the opposite. It shows everybody got it wrong, including me. I got it wrong too. Nobody saw where we are today coming. We all speculated and said, well, God, what if Wizards keeps going this way? And nobody, I don't care who you are, predicted the Magic 30 situation, the fireside chats, and what happened with Lord of the Rings and everything. Nobody predicted it. Period. And I don't care who you are or anything. It's like saying somebody predicted what would have happened with the collectibles, the money machine go burr, the virus and COVID collapse of 2020. No, but nobody predicted it. How it was handled, how messy it was, all these vaccines and the things were against it and for it, and the drama and closing the countries and all the anger and the divisiveness. And don't forget, we went through 2020, and that was when Wizards had to disavow any culturally inappropriate cards. They start going back in old Magic card history and just saying we can't talk about and you got to erase these and you can't have them. And then the stores said we can't even buy list them because that shows we accept the Magic cards. Things got very weird very quickly. And that's what we went through. And now, in the middle of 2023, heading to 2024, once again, we face a new era of uncertainty in weird directions. And the current direction is that rates are going to be high. Inflation seems to be leveling out. I use that gently. And I think the high interest rates are going to stay for a while. And as people continue to be angry at Hasbro and Wizards and the high prices, that will continue to prevent anything from like vintage and sealed boxes from having any major moves, buyouts, or appreciation. It's going to kind of reduce and kind of, ice and chill over the market appreciation and movement. It's going to really slow everything. But it doesn't mean it's over. And that's what everybody's acting like. I'm the same person that last year in 2022, I put out videos over and over, 5, 10, 15 videos, yelling at the camera for you all to buy something. Put your money, close your eyes, click the buy button, buy the S&P 500. You're going to lose money. It's going to go down the next day, and you're going to feel like crap, and you got to do it. Wake up again, hit the button, get punched in the face by Chuck Norris, and say thank you very much. You got to do it. You got to buy something. And I remember that. I remember talking about that. And the same concept with the vintage Magic cards, the sealed product, everything was just collapsing. And you get to a point where it's like, okay, the negativity is so off the charts. You have to try. And, I didn't realize how much of all this stuff was fueled by people and money and investors and evil corporations and card stores. Essentially, a lot of rich people who had a lot of money, and they didn't know what to do with the money. Because without high interest rates, cash is trash, and that money is looking for a home to grow. And now that rates are higher, and we have choices again, to sum the video up as we cut this off for the day, the collectible world is not as attractive in a high interest rate environment. Because as we talked about with Fate Reforged, it's not that you're going to lose all your money and it's a bad thing, but it's just not as attractive. And if you don't have a passion for this, and in 2021 when everything went crazy, Wall Street bets, money machines, and dog coins, and monies, and doges, and doggy this and that, and GameStops, and AMCs, and memes, and everything that happened, a lot of that money found its way to the CCG world. And a lot of the people who put the money into the CCG world didn't give two flying fucks of shits. They didn't give a shit about you, me, or any actual product. It meant nothing to them. They didn't have a passion. They didn't know what they were doing. And they were looking for places to just throw money so the money would appreciate into more money and they can move it to something else. And that caused a lot of damage to a lot of meme stocks and crypto coins that were pumps and dumps and all these things. They caused a lot of damage. And looking back at it, those people are gone now. They popped their head up looking for their money. Do you guys not remember all the people lining up at Walmart and Target for sports cards and Pokemon? And they had to have security, and Target removed the Pokemon card section because of fights and threats, and people pulled guns in parking lots trying to get packs of Pokemon at Target and Walmart. Like, we went through a very non-normal bad time. And the only way to fully state that now is because we can reflect on it. And I think what's something a lot of you all don't want to hear is, if you're hanging on right now for the 2021 feeling in the burr and the money machine and the easy money, if you're waiting for the 2021 money and tendies, the quick tendies, to come back, I don't think it's coming back. And I'm telling you very bluntly. And it's coming from a guy who has more sealed product than probably anyone. And on top of that, I sell a lot of my sealed product, and you supporters and patrons, I sell sealed product. But the straight up blunt reality is, I do not believe 2021 mindset in easy, quick tendies and to the moon is coming back. It is not coming back. I'm going to say it one more time. I'm a guy. I think I am. I don't want to get in trouble. And I'm telling you all right now, as much as I'd love to sell you all everything and make 100 bazillion bazinga dollars, I don't think that's the case. If you're buying product from me or your LGS, I hope you're buying it for the correct reasons. Because these are still great products. I don't feel bad holding these heavy bags. Right? We're supposed to call them heavy bags, right? That adds drama. I don't feel bad, but I want people to understand you have to be real with what's going on. And I do not think anything is changing anytime soon. Period. I'm telling you all, it could take 5, 10, 15, 20 years to experience something like we experienced in 2021 again. No joke. I would be genuinely surprised if what we went through in 2021 with all the quick money attendees and everything, I would be surprised if that happens again within 10 years. I would be surprised. Because I don't think what we see is, we've already been out of it now for 2 years. So I guess another 8 years, I don't see it coming. Now again, I'm not going to try to predict that far out. But right now, the odds of that happening just seem very low. And I think that continues. Every day the sun comes up, I think people are giving up in more sealed product, vintage Magic cards, vintage sealed product of Magic, Pokemon, and everything. Continues to come back to the market for sale as people walk away, which is going to continue to stunt the growth and create that very pessimistic mindset. So that's where I think we are. And then the icing on the cake is, with interest rates high, if I can go on E-Trade and hit secondary market for fixed income corporate bonds, and I can take a $10,000 block of money, and I can find a bond paying 7%, and I can lock it in for 20 years. Individual bond, set maturity. Why should I try to say you should buy this box of Fate Reforged? That's the attitude, because I'm very skeptical that this box can outperform 7% every year consistently for 20 years. I'm very skeptical. So that changes the pieces on the chessboard. The pieces move differently, and it makes other pieces seem better, and it makes certain pieces on the board seem not as good. But just like the game of chess, every piece on the board is very important. In a diversified portfolio, when you have all the different pieces on the board, even the pawns in the front are just as important as the fancy, powerful pieces in the back. Because in a combination, the diversified portfolio and the diversified individual tends to always outperform. And I hope that makes sense. I love chess. I'm a big chess guy. I've always been a chess guy. That's all I have today, folks. Very long video. I didn't expect it to be this dramatic, but have a beautiful day. Penis, blah, blah, blah.